You're listening to Out Late with David.
My guest today first came out to his wife over 20 years ago, but chose to stay married for the sake of his family. It took 10 years for him to decide it was time to live a different kind of life. Today at age 59, he can finally say he's found his tribe. Joining me from his home in Maine, architect Brian Beaudette. Brian, welcome. I'm so glad that you're joining us today to kind of talk some about your story and seeing how that might actually help others. So let's kind of jump to the coming out part. If I recall, you did that multiple times. What was that first time when you came out to your wife? What was that like?
First of all, thank you for having me. So the first time I came out was after we had our third child back in 2001. And I thought maybe by sharing this part of me that somehow our relationship would get back on track. I felt like maybe me hiding this part of me. I had never acted on anything, got the sense that I might be bisexual. And I thought by revealing this, somehow it might sort of fix the relationship in some way. I struggled with how to do it. So I ended up deciding to do a letter. And I figured I'd read it. So I made sure I hit all the bullet points.
Did you stay with her when she read this letter?
Yeah, I did. I just knew that when I get nervous, I don't think clearly, and I knew I was going to mess up on the description. I felt like this was such an important thing to get right. So I had the letter in front of me, told her I needed to talk to her about something. It was just the two of us, and I pretty much read the letter. It wasn't pleasant. I don't regret doing it. However, it didn't go as I thought. It sort of made the relationship a lot harder, at least for me. I became sort of imprisoned within the relationship. I had to give up my passwords. I lost all trust, or she lost all trust in me. So I wasn't, sort of allowed to be out of the house without her knowing where. It was tough, and that went on for 10 more years. So I think in the back of my mind, I thought she knew about me. And again, I suspected something in her, and I thought that was going to be a good discussion we could have.
What did she think, or what did you think that she might know about you?
Well, just that I was wired to be, bisexual, that I always felt a little different than other guys. I liked doing things with girls and women. In fact, I used to tell people in front of her that I spoke the language of women. I was fluent in women. So yeah, that's why I just figured I would be able to get closer with her at that time back in 2001.
You said it didn't react, or she didn't react as the way you thought she would. What did you expect? Then actually, how did she react?
I think I really thought we were going to have an adult conversation about sexuality, Kinsey scale. I'm living with this woman. We're raising our kids, and there was a part of me that I just felt she didn't know about me, or at least I didn't come forward to specifically tell her.
But 10 years passed that you continued to live together after that conversation? What were those
Terrible.
10 years like?
They were really awful for me. I mean, there's a silver lining. I ended up devoting myself to my kids and my work. I have a great career, and I'm very proud of it. Super proud of my kids. But that's pretty much all I had. Again, I think she lost all trust in me, and it became a prison, basically. When I came out of high school, the AIDS crisis was at its peak. I just didn't allow myself. So that was just a shut door. So I didn't even go down that road. Never experimented, never even considered it, because it to me, it meant death if I went down that road. So, you just kind of brainwash yourself that this is the route you're on, and you convince yourself that, yes, I like women, sex was fine, and I learned to like that path. It was the only path being offered. and to be a good boy, a good person, which, I always wanted to be. That was the route I had to take.
How do you identify today on your sexuality?
I'm gay. The thing is, back then, I didn't have anything. Technically, I was straight. I was literally only having sex with my wife. So, and then when I left marriage, I still consider myself bisexual. And then, I'm fully gay. There's no question about it over time.
Over time.
Yeah.
Over time, it became
exactly
apparent, as we say. Okay. So after you then ended your marriage, fought for custody, worked through all of that, how did the children react to Dad and this change, and for the reasons?
Yeah, it was varied. My ex-wife wanted me to tell all the kids at the same time individually, and she wanted me to say that we're getting a divorce and it's because I'm gay. And that's what I had to do. That's how I had to explain to the kids. And my youngest, she just looked at me and she said, "Dad, I'm proud of you and I'm happy." No, she said, "I'm happy." And she gave me a big hug. Fifth grader, so, and she's been totally my gay ally. They're all straight, but she has been just an amazing ally.
More of my interview with Brian in just a moment. But first, I'd like to recommend a book I found helpful on my coming out journey. Gay Men and the New Way Forward by Raymond Rogoglioso highlights the unique strengths gay men bring to the world. The author talks about how gay men can be an example for others in compassion, creativity, and authenticity. Gay men often develop a strong sense of self and authenticity as they navigate their identities, which can inspire others to live more genuinely. These strengths illustrate how gay men can positively impact both their own lives and the world around them. For men who came out after being married to a woman, this book is a great guide for embracing their new identity and finding their place in the community with pride and purpose. Again, the book is Gay Men and the New Way Forward by Raymond Rogoglioso. And now back to my conversation with Brian. So was the family as in tune and supportive as your children?
When I decided that I was going to leave the marriage, that was 2 weeks before my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. It was a big event, and my ex-wife decided she wasn't going to go to that, and she wanted to make sure that I told everybody why. So she wanted me to out myself to my family at the ceremony, at the 50th anniversary party. So yeah, I told my sisters that, and my sister said, "No, you're not going to do that. That's about mom and dad, and it's not going to happen." Because they knew I didn't want to do it. One of my brothers was having a pool party, so I did it. I did it all in one day. Again, two sisters knew, so that was easy. And I told them the whole thing. I got wired as bisexual, and I was kind of going through that whole thing, and after the third time I said that, I just realized it just sounded so confusing. So I remember I went up to my brother-in-law and I just told him I'm gay. I'm leaving, I'm gay. And that was it. It's like, and it was the first time I said those words. Yeah. Like, I remember it was the first time I actually said I was gay. And it was, I don't even think he knows that. I should probably tell him. But it was kind of a momentous thing, and it just kind of happened suddenly. I was just tired of the long spiel that I was giving, and the words sat pretty well with me.
So how did you feel? How did you feel in your body when you said that?
A bit of relief. Like, I remember taking an exhale after I said it. Like, somehow it affected me in a kind of a deep way. Just the simple words. And then, and then I carried on through the rest of the day. And by the time I was done, I ended up taking a nap for 2 hours in my car after that episode. It just had drained me, so much. I just had nothing left in me. And I crashed. I always had this sort of monster inside my head. Like, I knew I was different. I didn't know how I was different. And I struggled with it since I was, in the 5th grade, and I remember driving home back to my town, and that, an hour and a half drive. And I just thought, that's it. That there's no monster anymore. There was nothing there. And it was like this massive void.
Mm.
And I almost didn't even know what to do with that void. It almost a little scary because it had taken so much room inside my head all those years that all of a sudden I kind of felt like I was, my thoughts were flailing a little bit because it wasn't there anymore. And, and I think I hid behind that so-called monster for various reasons, and it wasn't there. It was just vanished.
So now that you moved that monster off out of your head, what did you fill it with? What did you do with that extra?
Well, so I mean, it was a huge roller coaster in that, after I came out, I was on high, and then I crashed down to an even deeper depression. And it wasn't until I moved out when the kids went to school that I started distancing myself from my ex. And that's when I started feeling better. It took about 1.5 years before I felt like I was able to reach out and actually date guys, So it took a while before I felt settled enough for that.
Now that you are through all that and you're starting to date, how did that go? What kind of a step? You're finding your community, sometimes people say your new adopted family, your gay family, your LGBTQ plus family. If your own family's not all wholly supportive, then people pivot sometime to find those that are. How about for you?
I did not know, at least I didn't think I knew, a single gay man when I came out of the marriage. So I actually had to call P-Flag, Portland, Maine, and they told me about Grindr. That was their big advice. There's this app called Grindr.
P-Flag told you about Grindr.
So, and I have to say, I went on Grindr and I used it as copy date. Whole profile, it's like I'm looking for a long-term relationship on Grindr, and I started getting people chatting with me, and I'd say, you want to buy coffee. So for about 6 months, that's all I did. But it gave me a chance to meet other gay men. And, I started understanding, what the gay community roughly was like. Because there was a point there where I started feeling like I didn't feel, like I'd go to clubs, even though I was sort of out of the marriage and I could do anything I wanted, I was starting to think, well, I came out, but maybe I'm not gay. I wasn't resonating with who I was meeting, and didn't feel like I belonged. And then I joined the gay dads group, and holy moly, that was the beginning of everything. I was just meeting man after man, guy after guy. Like I felt like I could be friends with every single one of them. Everybody wants to be friends with everybody, and it was effortless to make friends. I had never really experienced that since freshman year of college. So all of a sudden I had hundreds of guys that I felt comfortable around and I could hang out with. We could chat for hours, it's like, especially with gay dads, you feel like you fought in the same dugout with them. I mean, even to this day, like I met 2 gay dads last week in Portland, and, we went on and on and on. And you just feel like you can endlessly talk with people. So, so I just feel so good now. I cannot describe how amazing this community is, and that's such a wonderful feeling.
P-Flag to Grindr to gay dads of Boston. That's quite the connection. And on the apps like Grindr, you can find love and commitment and relationship there. I have friends that just had their wedding last month that met.
Oh yeah, I'm still on Grindr,
and then just
had
As a life coach, I'm committed to help you discover the passions in your life and help you map a course to achieve the things you really want. Together, we will unwind those persistent self-doubts that are holding you back. You'll begin to see your passions more clearly and set achievable goals. Throughout your journey, I'll be there to challenge and encourage you in moving forward to discover your authentic self. For more information about my personal life coaching services, or to arrange a complimentary consultation, visit davidcottoncoaching.com.
You're listening to Out Late with David.
So you own your small business, or you're a businessman. You have a business that, from what I can tell, looking, it's really impressive by what you do. Was there any impact on that with this whole journey of you coming out and then disclosing, that you're a gay man?
It definitely could have. Big picture, no, it didn't, thankfully. But into the details, fortunately, my ex-wife had told me when I came out as bi, back in, after our third child, told me that if I left the marriage, she would out me to everybody she could. And when I left the marriage, she did. It was being talked about at cocktail parties. I'm a businessman in a small town, and word got around. Long story short, I had already been featured in, a number of magazines, and one of the magazines was also does like sort of a TED Talk thing called Main Live, and they heard about coming out, and I think I had mentioned it to I knew one of the publishers or the editor of the magazine, and she'd asked me, she knew what was going on. It was like a year later, and she said, we'd like to hear your story, and she offered a platform for me to give sort of a TED Talk on on their platform in life. So they gave me a speech coach and everything like that, and and it was about how the design world still supported me after the news came out, and I think they wanted that message to get out, and it was an honor, just like this is an honor that I'm doing this podcast with you, and I really appreciate the platform. I did to them as well. And it was something that I almost didn't do the night before. I was petrified of laying myself open and having it recorded. And it was in front of a large audience too. But I did it somehow. And I'm still so thankful I was able to pull that off and have that out there, for me to share a piece of my journey anyway. In hopes that somebody could resonate with it. And I was getting phone calls from guys that were stuck in their marriages, and I would talk to a few guys off the cliff. But even now, I still get a phone call every 3 months. Somebody who saw the video and just resonated with it, and they need somebody to talk with that they feel like they could trust and kind of talk through things.
And that's powerful. Thank you for taking the time to do that, because not everyone would. But as you apparently know, being vulnerable yourself takes that initial courage. But once you start to be vulnerable, that's a superpower. And then others feel comfortable in your presence. And like you said, you talk them off the ledge, maybe literally.
That's a good word, superpower. Cases. You do feel like a superpower. Yeah. Yeah. When you're vulnerable and you completely opened yourself up, it's almost like nobody can bring it. You've taken the action to open yourself up.
Yeah.
You're not a target anymore. It's pretty liberating.
That's why I don't like the term coming out. I didn't come up with the alternative, but letting in. You're letting people into your life, and so you're in control. It's not like I am gay. No, I am gay, and so I'm letting you into my life to know that. If I want you to know it, maybe I don't. Maybe you don't need to know it, so I don't tell you. This is me, and I'm pretty fabulous.
Knowing what we know now,
just who I am.
We had this knowledge back then.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine what that power would have done.
Yeah,
but I needed to be on this journey for whatever.
Yeah.
So I try not to regret any of it. But boy, it is powerful, heavy.
Right. I too look at it. I'm probably stronger, more in tune with myself.
Yeah.
Having been through the journey, I've learned so much about myself that I don't believe I would have learned.
That's true.
And even my career, I did well in my career, even though I now believe that I used being focused on work all the time, work, was a way to get esteem from others, because I didn't feel I'd get it from another way if I wasn't that top performer. I wasn't trying to fake it out. That's how I got
Yeah.
feeling good about myself was by
And I'm sure
working
you
hard
know a lot of the,
to do that.
or I get the sense anyways, that a lot of gay men are perfectionists. I think we needed to sort of overcome something
Mm-hmm.
inside that felt less than. So, on the outside, we had to be
Mm-hmm.
above and better, so that to offset that inner
Right.
turmoil that you would.
And at the time, I didn't know what I was offsetting until it's, looking back later, I can say I was probably offsetting
Yeah.
those thoughts. But at the time, it was no, I'm just focused on my career, on my
Yeah.
marriage, on my kids, on being a good family man, provider, make everybody feel safe and loved because I loved them, so make sure they know that. Um, but there's always that,
Mhm.
what was in the
Yeah.
background. So what do you see as your
Mm.
future from this point forward?
Well, I think being authentic, that is the greatest thing I got through this journey. And it's still a struggle. I just will keep trying harder, be as vulnerable when I can be, living life without all that extra static that never belonged there to begin with. I think as far as, career goals or personal goals, I don't think I have anything, you know, other than trying to do the things that I enjoy doing. There's nothing outstanding that I need to get to it. I haven't lived until I reach that
Mm-hmm.
moment. Other than just like
Yeah.
I said, just being in the moment and just feeling good about just living my life authentically.
Yeah. Sounds like presence and gratitude. Be present in the moment and grateful
Yeah,
for that which
yeah,
you
that's a good
have.
way to put it. Definitely.
So, what piece of advice would you have for someone who was going through something similar to what you may have
Mm.
been through in the past or some piece
Yeah.
of that? If you had them here, had their attention, and you could help them move forward to the level of happiness, what might that
So
be?
whenever these guys would call in, from that video who were desperate, I would hear them out. I would answer their questions. I would help them in any way I could. Then I made them promise to me that, and I would ask them, who is the closest person in your life? And I would make them consciously think of someone. I would not get off the phone or texting or whatever it was until they told me that there was somebody in their lives that they could talk to. And I would make them promise that they would reach out to that person and open up with them, and if they couldn't, some of the guys didn't, then I had some information that I could send them. Find that person, find somebody you trust and just open up to them. They will
Mm-hmm.
love you no matter what. They will be there
Yeah.
for you no matter what. I know it's hard to think
Mm-hmm.
that it's not going to be the case, but it always is the case.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just so important to just let the words out, free yourself. Once you do that, you once you're talking to somebody, you almost help yourself just in processing what you're telling that other person. Even if they said nothing,
Mm-hmm.
even if they were just
Yeah.
literally listening to you, just by speaking those words, you are going to start processing the solution for yourself.
Yeah, they're holding space for you, if nothing else. Not
Absolutely.
solving it, but holding space and letting you air what's
Yeah.
on your mind. That's
I
very
know.
powerful to have someone. So that's very good advice.
Yeah.
Find that person that is
Yeah.
your confidant, someone that you can be open to
Yeah.
and honest with. Could be your spouse as well in
Yeah.
some situations.
But just
Yeah.
to get the words out, though, is so important.
Well, Brian, thank you for taking the time today to tell your
Yes.
story and share your insights. No doubt this will have an impact on someone. Someone will listen to this and resonate with it and inspire
Yeah.
them to how they need to address and move forward and find that
Yeah.
confidant in their
Mhm.
life as they
Yeah.
go forth on their journey.
Oh, thank you
thank
so
again
much,
for your
David.
time
Nice to
today.
see you again.
Like many men in the process of coming out, Brian struggled with how to break the news to his wife. He resorted to putting it all in a letter and reading it to her. In it was an explanation he would use again and again about how he was hardwired as a bisexual. We all create explanations for ourselves that may seem more acceptable than simply saying, "I'm gay." But when Brian finally blurted out those simple words to his brother-in-law, he felt a real sense of relief. He was finally done with wrapping his identity into a story to help others accept him and to justify his past thoughts and actions to himself. Coming out is hard and it takes time, but there comes a point in time when the worst is behind you and you're done pretending. I'm here to tell you that's a great place to be. I thank Brian for sharing his story today and invite you to join us next time on Out Late with David.